Welcome to Good as Gold, the podcast where we'll share how Olympic dreams are actually human stories. I'm Sarah Hughes, Olympic champion in figure skating 2002 Salt Lake City, and your host for this journey behind the medal. My guest today is Caryn Davies, one of the most decorated rowers in history. A 3-time Olympic medalist, including 2 golds, Caryn also graduated from Harvard, Columbia Law School, and Oxford, making her journey as much about academic excellence as Olympic glory. We talked about the intense teamwork of rowing, what it takes to win on the world's biggest stage, and how she's built a life beyond the water while staying deeply connected to sport. Caryn's story is a powerful reminder of focus, balance, and what it means to keep pulling towards greatness. Thank you for joining today. I appreciate it. I wanted to mostly talk about your Olympic journey, your rowing, a little bit of your post-Olympics life. But, of course, if you have something else you'd want to talk about, we can also do.
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay, awesome. So to start, I like to just have some warm-up questions. Mm-hmm. So when was the last time you wore your medals?
I was just thinking the other day that I can't remember the last time I got them out of my sock drawer. It was, I think, before my son was born, so that was more than 2 years ago.
You keep them in your sock drawer?
Yeah, doesn't everybody?
I heard that a lot of the swimmers, I think, because swimmers, when they tend to have one, they might have multiple, they keep them in their sock drawers.
Yeah. That's where I keep mine, in little pouches in my sock drawer.
Okay, I like it.
Where do you keep yours?
Well, I only have one. Yeah, I don't keep it in a sock drawer, but I have it around me. One of my dresses is in an Olympic museum, I think figure skating museum, but I wanted to keep my medal. Although some skaters, it's with me, but not in a sock drawer. I have a safe in my, so I keep it in a safe. I don't know, I feel like it's safer.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But I only have one, so I feel like can't lose it.
Did you know if you lose it, you can get it replaced?
So, but it's not the same one. What's the process for that? So I saw because Gary Hall lost some of his in the fires in California, and then Thomas Bach presented him with new ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for people in this country, you can reach out to the USOPC, to the Alumni Association, and they'll help facilitate it. But yeah, you go through the IOC. The IOC has all the casts in a vault somewhere, so they just have to recast it.
Okay, maybe I'll put mine on display then. You'll put it right behind me for...
yeah, that's a great idea.
For this. Yeah, okay. You know what? Now you're also a decorator. I will add that to your resume. What were your pre-competition routines? Did you have superstitions? How did they develop?
I didn't have anything very specific because I knew that it's always going to get, things are always going to be weird, and I didn't want to be attached to any one thing that I absolutely had to do. Generally, I listen to music as many people do. Except I had a Walkman. I had a mixtape that I'd had since high school, and I loved that mixtape. And so I just, I listened to a Walkman before warming up, and I generally tried not to take myself too seriously because I think that only just makes you more nervous. So I would kind of dance around and tell jokes and things. And one of my teammates once said to me, I used to really worry about you before competitions. It just seemed like you were a little loopy. And then I realized that's just how you get ready. That's how you handle the pressure.
What songs were on the mixtape?
A lot of Prince. Best pre-race music is Prince.
In rowing, do you have a warm-up and then you go and compete, or do you have a warm-up hours before and then you guys just all go out to race?
Oh my God, we have like 7 warm-ups. But the real, like, the kind of team stuff started about 2 hours before the race. We would usually go for a jog and then like have a stretch and then have a team meeting. And then probably about an hour before the race, we would get the boat out and get on the water and then do another warm up on the water of about 40 minutes.
Oh, rowing's super time consuming.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we would get to the course like 3 or 4 hours before the race. There was a lot of just waiting around.
Was this mixtape very long then?
I didn't listen to it the whole time. I didn't generally have to turn it over more than once.
Well, you have to like, communicate with your teammates, right? I mean, you're doing like a lot of team bonding during that time. Yeah. As a spectator, what are some of your most memorable moments of the Olympics? Were you able to go to a lot of events? I mean, so you've been to 3 Olympics, right? They're super different environments, I imagine. I mean, Beijing, London, Athens. Those are very different cultures.
Yes, yeah. I would say the venues themselves were not all that different, but certainly outside the venues, yeah. I remember I was walking down the street in China and obviously, like, I was very obviously an athlete. I'm tall and white and I was wearing Olympic gear. And this woman came up to me and asked me to sign her baby's forehead. She had no idea who I was, but she just thought it was so cool. So I signed her baby's forehead.
Aww.
Yeah.
What about the sports? Did you get to go see a lot of the sports?
Not as many as I would have liked. Just everything is so spread out. It's hard to get from one thing to the next. But I remember beach volleyball being very much a fun kind of party atmosphere. I think that was my favorite.
I went to see beach volleyball in London. They had it like at the Horses Palace.
Oh, I don't remember. But you were basically overlooking Parliament.
Yeah. I remember I think you see like a Ferris wheel.
The London Eye. Yeah, you could see
the
that,
London Eye. Yes. Your U.S. rowing bio said your most memorable sporting achievement was beating all the boys in your class to win the 3rd grade arm wrestling championship.
Oh yeah, man, that was a big deal. I remember that vividly. In the final, I beat. It was either Alan or Andrew Snyder. They were twins, but they were also tall like me. It's funny, you would think arm wrestling would favor shorter kids, but oh yeah, I was very competitive even from that age.
So how did you get into rowing? Like, is it because I actually don't? The first time I really met rowers was in undergrad, and they were super tight. Like, it was a very cohesive community. They had, and so, but growing up, I didn't know any rowers.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of that depends on where you grew up, right?
Where you grew up, yeah.
There's only rowing in certain places. You kind of need a large body of water. I was scouted in the supermarket when I was 12. I was already very tall. I was like 6 foot tall, basically, at 12 years old. And the coach of the local high school / club team saw me with my father. And he was like this big, gruff guy, very weathered. Coaches often look kind of weathered from being in the elements. And he strode up purposefully and he said, "I want you for rowing." And I was just taken aback and I hid behind my father. But he explained to my father that he thinks I would be a good candidate for the rowing team. And so I went down and tried it, and the rest is history.
Is 12 when competitive rowers typically start?
No, most people start a little later, actually. A lot of people start in high school. Like, most middle schools don't have a rowing program, right? So a lot of people start in high school. A lot of people even start in college because a lot of high schools don't have a rowing program. So I definitely have teammates who started in college.
Did you know right away that this was something that you'd want to spend a lot of your time doing?
I did. It kind of goes back to what you say about rowers being very tight, right? Like, I was an awkward kid, didn't have a lot of friends. And then I went down to the boathouse and I was like, these are my people. These are fellow, tall, awkward kids. They will be my friend. And also, I was good at it pretty much right away. So when you're good at something, you want to do it more, and then you get better at it. And it was this virtuous cycle where I improved very quickly, and that was very validating.
Is rowing like a family thing?
No, no one in my family rowed until I started rowing, although my brother also started at the same time.
Did you row together, or how much older is he than you?
He's 2 years
Or is he
older.
younger?
No, we were
Okay.
2 years older, yeah. I mean, we were rowing out of the same boathouse, but in different boats, kind of on different teams, basically, in high school, yeah.
What's the typical day of a rower like? Because I feel you do a lot of, I guess it's like off boat training. I mean, we call it off ice training. What do you call it?
Oh, I think I would call it cross training.
Cross training. Okay, that works.
Although, if you're on a rowing machine, I wouldn't call that cross training. I guess people call that indoor rowing, and we do a lot of that. I assume you're talking about like a day in the life of a rower training for the national team. Yeah,
day in the life, yeah.
Yeah, usually we'll row 2 to 3 times a day. And what's interesting, people always tell me, oh my God, you're a rower, you must get up so early in the morning. But if you're training for the Olympics and that's like all you have to do all day, you don't have to start at 5. It's like our first training session was usually like between 6:30 and 8:30. Like we would start in that window kind of. And a lot of it depends on the weather. Like a lot of bodies of water get rough in the middle of the day. So in that case, we'd have to go a little earlier. But if not, then we could go a little later. But we would usually row in the morning. And then our second workout of the day would be kind of late morning. And that's either another session on the water or maybe weightlifting or, I don't know, sometimes running, but not that often. And then we would usually row again in the afternoon. And the rows would be anywhere from kind of morning and afternoon would be about 2 hours, and the one in the middle of the day might be closer to 1 hour. That's on the water time. And then, of course, like you said, it's time consuming. Like, you got to get to the boathouse. You got to get the boat out. You got to, like, warm up. You got to stretch. So maybe 3 hours.
And what did you do at night to wind down, like to recover, to prepare yourself for the next day?
Oh, I mean, eat a lot of food and go to bed. What else would one do?
Yeah, I don't know. People are just like, or I guess, you have like a yoga routine or.
Yeah,
some people are just like, I watch a lot of TV.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a lot of Netflix, especially in later years, right? Because when I started, Netflix didn't exist. It's interesting. So I like tried to make a comeback in 2020. So I had been working a corporate law firm job, and I quit that. And I remember thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have so much time to like pursue hobbies. And I also I started my own law practice, so I was kind of doing that on the side while I was training. And I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have so much time because really all I have to do is like train for 6 hours a day. But you forget that you're just so tired that you don't have the energy to do anything but like lie on the couch and watch TV in between training sessions. So I was just amazed at how little I got done in a day when I had training. But yeah, I forgot what your question was. We all watched a lot of Netflix.
I was asking about the typical day in the life. But I did want to ask you about coming back out of retirement. Or I guess I know, because I looked at that, I was like, after I saw like, okay, your last race was in 2015. And then I was like, wait, you went back to the World Championships in 2019 to try to make another team. I mean, how was a training different from, 10, 20 years earlier to then, in 2019? Or like when you're been doing like your body's, obviously you have more experience, probably more tools to manage yourself, know yourself better, but just the wear and tear on your body. So it's a grind.
Yeah. Actually, going back to you asked like what's the biggest difference between when I first started and more recently. It has become a lot more serious. And I say that almost not in a good way. Yes, the training volume is a little more, but not ridiculously so, or at least not when I was there in 2020. I heard tell that in 2016, the training plan was even harder. But by 2020, I think the coach had realized that people were getting injured and dialed it back a little bit. But I remember, and maybe again, this could be a function of age. I remember when I first started in like 2002, everyone was either in college or shortly out of it. So we were all like young and recovered easily. And we did a lot of fun things as a team. We would have like pool parties over the summer and we would all go out to dinner. And sometimes, so we were training in New Jersey. Sometimes we'd go into New York City on the weekends. Like we just had a really fun time. And it felt like we were all doing this thing together but it wasn't, it wasn't all that we were. We were also college students and had other interests. By the time I came back in 2020, a lot of the women had been at the training center for a long time. Like were quite a few years out of college and had like that was what they did. And it was almost frowned upon to have interests outside of rowing because I think it was looked at as like you're not committed enough. And I think that's the wrong approach. Like personally, it does not work for me because then I just sensed like when I came back to the training center, I just sensed a lot of like angst, a lot of anxiety. And that makes sense. Like if this is all you've done for 10 years, like those stakes are too high. Like if that is your whole identity, every time you go to the line, if your identity is at stake, that's too high stakes. That is too important. And I don't think you're going to perform as well as you could because you'll be tense. So that was the biggest thing I noticed, less so much in the training volume and more in like what people did not do outside of the training. They didn't have as much fun. Now, in some ways that was fine for me because I was a lot older. So I didn't have the energy to go and have as much fun. Like it's like night and day. Like how long it takes to recover when you're 20, I guess I was 20, my first national team, my first world championships. And I was 37 and 39 by the time Tokyo came around 2 years later. Pushing 40, you can't like just stay up late and party and like get up in the morning and row and wash, rinse, repeat. Like I just had to be much more deliberate about my recovery. At the same time, I was also a lot wiser. So I knew, like I could feel if an injury was coming on, and then I would just go to the coach and I'd say, Coach, I think I tweaked something. Can I have 2 days off? And he would say yes. And then I would come back in 2 days and I would be fine. Whereas when I was younger, I might try to row through it and then it would get worse until I had to take like 2 weeks off. So I think I managed myself a lot better as I got older.
What made you decide to, I mean, you now have 3 Olympic medals, have a professional career. I mean, went to 2 elite schools, 3 elite schools. You have a law degree, passed the bar exam, worked for a big firm where, got valuable training to start your own firm. And then you're just like, I think I can reach the elite level again.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge shift. I mean, or I guess like at first you're thinking like, was this in the back of your mind, back in 2015 when you were talking about, this is how I'm going to go end my competitive career. And you're just like, no, I need this in my life. I need to be on the water. I want to be in that competitive environment, super competitive environment.
Yeah. I actually retired from elite competition in 2012. In 2015, I raced at the boat race at Oxford, which was, I wouldn't call that elite competition, although it is very difficult. I kind of felt like when I retired, I was like, okay, I've done everything I wanted to do, and it's time to move on with my life. But as many athletes discover when they try to move on with life, real life is really hard. And I felt a little lost. And I started to think, what was it that I was searching for all those years that I was rowing that I was missing now that I wasn't rowing? What did I have? What did I lose? What is it in my life that's missing now? And how can I get it? And I knew, obviously you can't row forever, right? But I just had this feeling there's something I can learn about myself if I go back, now that I have the perspective of having worked for a few years. I mean, I was out of the elite rowing circle for 7 years. And I knew it was a long shot to make the team. So I thought really carefully about why am I doing this? And I wanted it to be worth it whether or not I made the team. So I set my goals. I had set 2 goals, and I actually shared these with the coach before I returned to the training center. One was I want to learn something, just like I said, I want to learn something about myself, and I want to be a really good teammate, because I wouldn't say that I was a bad teammate in my early years, but I hadn't put a lot of intentional effort into it. And I just had this feeling that there was something about being part of a team, that's what I was really missing. And I wanted to really get the most out of that I could. So yeah, that's it. Well, and also, can I actually do it? Well, I asked the coach a year before I wanted to return. I asked the coach, what metrics do I have to hit? And he gave me 2 metrics, both on the rowing machine. And I said, okay. And I spent about 6 months and I hit them. And I thought, well, I guess I can do this. I mean, I certainly wasn't the fastest on the team. In fact, I was basically the slowest on the team when I came back to the training center in 2019. But I at least knew that I belonged there. Well, I hoped. But it's interesting because that's actually not how it turned out, at least not at first. So in 2019, it's June of 2019, and I pack up my car, pack up my life, drive down to Princeton, New Jersey. And I have this image in my mind of this glorious homecoming where, I'm welcomed back into the fold, and I'm seen as a leader and a matriarch, and I can mentor the younger athletes. And I showed up at the training center, and everybody just kind of gave me the side eye. What are you doing here? And I felt really out of place. I just felt really unwelcome. And looking back on it, I'm sure part of that is, I think people were intimidated, right? I'm a 3-time medalist, and I'm showing up, and there's only so many spots on the team, right? So everyone, and as I said, there was a very kind of just overall anxious tenor among that group. And I actually talked to the coach sometime during that year. I talked to the coach about it, and he said, I was like, I don't know about the attitude, right? I don't know if it's conducive to going fast. And he was like, yeah, I know. I don't know what to do about it. So, I'm not the only one who noticed this. But yes, I showed up and I just felt so out of place. And I was like, okay, well, maybe if I just get faster, maybe if I prove myself, then I will be welcomed into this group. So I just put my head down and worked as hard as I could, which, mind you, we said earlier, when you're pushing 40, you can't train like you used to. So even though I was trying to prove myself, I think a lot of people looked at what I was doing and thought she's not doing enough. So yeah, things just I did get faster. I actually, by the time, a little bit before we went into final selection for Tokyo, I was actually almost at my personal record on the rowing machine, which I hadn't hit since I was 22 years old. So the training was working, but I still didn't feel like a part of the team. I still didn't feel like I could be the teammate I wanted to be. And it was right around then that the COVID hit and the games were postponed for a year. And I had this reckoning where I was like, what am I doing? Like, yeah, I'm faster, but I'm not, like, I don't know what I've learned, and, I don't belong here. And so I thought a lot about quitting. But then I also thought, well, I put all this effort in, and I've been given another year to figure out how to do better. So in a way, that's a real gift, and I don't want to waste this gift. So that summer of 2020, everyone was like training on their own. We'd all dispersed, in isolation, whatever. And I called everyone on the team, and I asked her one question. I said, what can I do to be a better teammate to you? And everyone was really surprised. As you can imagine, like, one teammate said, I don't know what to say. No one has ever asked me that before. I got some really harsh feedback. One woman whom I've known for a while, she started training in 2006. She said, Caryn, I've known you for 15 years. And in all that time, I have nothing good to say about you. And furthermore, I don't think you deserved to be in the boat in 2012 when you won gold. She wasn't in that boat. And I said, oh, wow, okay. So that hurt. But I also said, okay, well, thank you for that feedback, but you haven't answered my question. How can I be better? And there was one woman who gave me the most valuable feedback. She said, look, Caryn, I want you on this team. I know you can make us faster, but there's a reason that people don't like you. We think that you act entitled. You show up and you act like you're going to make this team no matter what, and you don't even have to try. And I was really surprised when she said that, because that wasn't how I felt inside. I felt like I was bored, like, I didn't think I was going to make the team. I felt scared that I wasn't good enough. But I also realized that fear had made me kind of close in on myself and not, share what I was going through with other people. So if I just showed up and I did my own thing, and people like saw that as, I think I'm too good for you. So after that, I made a really conscious effort to be vulnerable with people and just say, like, here's what I'm going through and my struggles. Like, tell me about yours. Like, how can I help you? And over that fall and that spring, after we started training together again, things started to really shift. I started to feel more part of the team. People started to ask me for advice. I felt like I could actually be the teammate that I had wanted to be. And then in the spring of 2021, things were going great. I was fast. I was part of the team. I got injured, and it took forever to get like the right diagnosis and the right treatment, partially because of COVID restrictions. So I was out of the boat for 3 months, and that was really hard. Like I was watching this dream I had of making the team again slip away. I spent hours and hours on the exercise bike at the back of the bay. I hurt my shoulder, so I was biking all the time. Just, watching people go out rowing and just feeling like, what am I doing here? And cried a lot by myself in the shower after everyone left. But I didn't quit, because I also knew that by sticking with it and trying to be the best teammate I could be, I was also helping the team and setting a good example. Now, when selection finally came around, I didn't do very well. One day the coach called me into his office, and he said, well, I think you know what I'm going to say. And I said, yeah, I do. I'm cut, right? Like, this is it. And he said, yeah, I can't give you any more chances. You got to go home. But then he said something I didn't expect. He said, with the way you've shown up in the last few months and your actions in support of this team, you've shown that you're a true Olympian. A lot of the women on this team don't yet know, they might never know what it means to be an Olympian, but you've shown you're a true Olympian. And with that, I gathered up my stuff, slung my bag over my shoulder, walked out of the boathouse. Actually walked right by a group, like the team, the women who were looking like they were going to make the team. They were stretching kind of at the side of the boat bay, and I walked right by them, and I didn't say anything. I couldn't even look at them because I knew that if I did, I would cry, and I didn't want to cry. So I just walked out and got in my car and drove away. And the same woman who had given me that feedback about, we think you're entitled, I spoke to her months later, actually, and she said, that day when you walked out of the boathouse and you didn't even say goodbye to anyone, I thought, this can't be how Caryn Davies ends her rowing career. Like, she is a legend. She can't just walk out and not say goodbye. But that wasn't how it ended. Over the next few days, I got messages from almost everyone on the team saying, hey, thanks so much for helping me get better. One woman said, I couldn't have gotten through this year without you. I have so much respect for you, more than almost anyone else in my life. Thanks for being a mentor to me. And getting those messages, I realized that I'd actually won something more important than another Olympic gold medal. I'd won the trust and respect of my teammates. And I also figured out what it was, like why I rowed all those years and what I missed when I retired. I really just wanted a community. I just wanted a place where I belonged and where people cared whether or not I showed up. And the thing is, once I realized what I was looking for, I realized also that you can find that in other places in your life if you're just intentional about it. So retiring for the second time was much easier because I didn't have to lose my community.
I'm crying.
I still cry a little bit when I tell that story. It's very emotional.
I mean, because, listening to you just now share this, it's like, you've been at the peak for so many years. You take a step away from the sport to try something else. But even if you have these, amazing times or hitting the metrics, like it takes so much courage to go back and put yourself, even though you're a team, you're competing against each other to make these spots or to make the Olympic team. And you really have to, like you talked about the fear, but you don't want to show anyone.
Yeah.
Or you were afraid, to show some vulnerability. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it was hard done.
What made you have the idea, or what gave you the idea to call the other women and say, like, how can I be a better teammate?
I knew that what I was doing wasn't working. And I also know that feedback is the best way to get better, right? There's only so much that you can figure out on your own. And I realized I needed help. And who better to help me figure out than the people that I had spent the last year with almost every day.
How political is the selection process for the Olympics? Like, had it changed from when you first went to the 2020s?
It depends on who you ask. And it also, it depends on the boat. There's a different selection process for different boats. Like the single is a straight trials, right? So I would say that's not political. I'm sure, there's reasons you could say it is. The 8 is chosen by the coach, and it's gotten different over the years. Like it was very subjective in the start. And now in more recent years, it's shall we say it's better documented, and it's more objective in terms of, the coach has to back everything up with numbers. But I also think that we've lost something with that because there are some intangible things like if you are just a really positive person who makes everyone else around you faster, it's really hard to document that, right? Like it's hard to show that with numbers. And team cohesiveness in general. I think we've going back to like, how the tenor, the atmosphere on the team, I think that has affected things. But, it's interesting. So halfway through, well, I guess it's not really halfway through, but halfway through my first rowing career, I started hanging out with some people who very much believed that selection was unfair and that it was political and et cetera, et cetera. And I really absorbed that attitude, and it made me really negative. And it was just, I kind of butted heads with the coach a lot. And there was one day I remember that like really changed how I thought about it. The coach said to me, look, this isn't about me. Coaches don't get medals. Like, this is your Olympic Games. This is your athletic career. And like, what do you like? How are you going to shape it? And then the assistant coach also said around that time, she said to me, performance speaks for itself. So I basically completely changed my attitude. And part of that is I also changed the people I was hanging out with, where I just decided like, I can't control all this other stuff that's going on. Some of it was probably in my head. Some of it was real. I can only control what I do. And once I changed that attitude, I found I was a lot faster and a lot more successful. So I think it says a lot about, who you surround yourself with, your attitude. Is selection perfect? No, it can't be. I don't know. It's an art, not a science. But I do think, I do think the coach made a lot of good decisions. We had a great team and we won a lot of medals, and I love the women that I trained with. So,
How did you get into the stroke seat? Like, were you just against when you're in the selection process? I guess the first question would be how you got into the stroke seat, because that's like for people who don't know rowing, from what I've learned from it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's a really important position because you're setting the cadence, the tone. You're basically the metronome for the rhythm of the boat.
Yes. Yeah.
And are you only then competing against other people who are in that same exact seat?
Great question, right? And that's one of the things that, like, I mentioned someone told me, I don't think you deserved to be in the boat in 2012. So, I was in the stroke seat, right? And there was another woman who was a lot faster than me in a lot of other situations. But we did a head-to-head race in the stroke seat, and I beat her by a lot. And so the reason was I am better in that seat. Now, you could argue, okay, maybe the coach needed to reshuffle the boat, find someone else to put in a stroke seat, and then put her in a different seat. And, maybe that would have been more fair or faster, or, who knows what. But by then I had a lot of experience in the stroke seat and I knew how to do it well. And the secret, or like the whole point of that position, and actually, I might even argue any position in the boat, but especially in the stroke seat because you have so much influence. The whole point of being in that position is not to be fast yourself. It is to make the people behind you faster. It is to make the boat go as fast as it can. And that's one of the things, like in my early rowing career, I actually got put in stroke seat in college when I was a freshman in college. I had no business being there. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, we were not fast, and I did not help in any way. And it wasn't until I was, older and more mature and had a lot more racing experience under my belt. And even there's like a specific point, and I can tell the story, but it's another long one, so I'll tell the short version. When we were training for like leading into the games in 2008, I'd actually been stroking for a couple of years, and I was good at it, but there was this training session where we were just not going fast, and the coach said, that's not good enough. And I had this moment after training that day, because I was really like, oh man, we're not good enough. Like, what can I do? I felt a lot of pressure because I'm in the stroke seat. And I realized, oh, I'm not here because I'm a good rower. I am here because I make other people better. And so instead of like trying to be the best rower I can be, I need to do whatever I need to do to make other people better. And so I actually changed how I approached a race and the race plan in a way that I was pretty sure would, help the boat overall, even though it was not necessarily the best thing for me and my physiology. And it worked. We got faster. We had a great race in Beijing and won. So I think that was the day that I went from being like a good athlete and a good stroke seat to a great one, is I realized, well, actually my job was up there, and it wasn't about me.
Wow. I want to talk a little bit about the Olympic experience, because, you've been talking now about making the Olympic team, but you have so many world championship medals, World Cup. I mean, what's the difference for you or in the rowing community between being part of the Olympic experience or being named to the Olympic team versus a world championship or a World Cup?
The competition itself is actually really similar. I mean, it's like the same people doing the same thing, right? Like everyone ups their game in an Olympic year, but at the same time, you look around and you're like, okay, well, I know who's going to be fast. I've seen these people at the last 3 world championships. This is not a real surprise. The difference is suddenly everyone else in the world cares. And so there's just a lot more pressure. Like you get to the venue and there's all these like sponsor signs and flags and cameras and, press conferences. And so I think the athletes who are the most successful are the ones who can just kind of like not let that affect them. We're just rowing. Like, we're just out here to have a good time. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that big a deal. In fact, so in 2008, our coach, he was great at like pre-race prep. He was always so calm, like really good at just like getting us in the right mindset. And his pre-race speech to us in Beijing in 2008 went something like this. All right. So this is just another race. Like, you guys have been winning. Now, at that point, we'd won the last 2 world championships and like every World Cup. He's like, you guys have been winning for years, just like go out there and do what you always do. It's really not a big deal. And we were all like, yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, yeah, we'll just go out there and do what we always do, which is win. And then we did, right? And we get back to the dock, and he meets us on the dock, and we're about to go get our medals. And he says, you remember what I said about this being another race? That was bullshit. This is the bleeping Olympics, and you just won a bleeping Olympic gold medal. And I just remember feeling like, wait, you lied? But it was exactly what we needed to hear. And it's sort of true. Like, nothing, I mean, I'm sure, well, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you. In a sport, especially in a sport that is not that popular publicly, like, nothing really changes. And in fact, I was actually really disappointed and sad about how little changed after you won a gold medal. Like, people don't recognize me walking down the street, Somebody once said to me, if I were you, I would never have a bad day. I would just put on all my Olympic medals and I would stand in front of the mirror and I would be like, you are amazing. And when he said that, I was profoundly sad, because that's like that's what you tell yourself when you're training, right? Like, if I can just accomplish this goal, the rest of my life will be made. Like, I am enough for the rest of my life. And, at risk of ripping off a line of Cool Runnings, if you weren't enough before the gold medal, you won't be enough after it, because the high lasts about 2 weeks, and then you're back to the same person. And if you were miserable before, you're going to be miserable after. So yeah, it's just at some level, it's just another competition. And that's how you have to approach it.
I want to play this game that we have. It's called Torture Tin. So torch is something that you think is torch.
Oh, torch.
Tin. Torch or tin, like fire. Like, oh, that's awesome. Fire. I think that's great. And tin would be like, that's a bad idea, or not great. Okay, so actually the first one, I don't even know if rowers do it because, first, rowers posting splits on social media during the games. Torture tin. First, do rowers do that?
Wait,
like, if I was a rower, I think I would do
splits?
Their own to brag.
Oh.
You're like, this is not something rowers do.
I mean, I don't care. Well, okay, so here's the thing. To me, if someone walks up to you and they lead with this is my erg score, and when you say splits, I assume you talk about on a rowing machine, because like on the water, it's it depends too much on the conditions, right? If they lead with this is my erg score, I'm like, okay, like, don't care, like, doesn't mean anything. Yeah, okay, you're strong, but does it float? Like, can you get in a boat and move a boat? So to me, if someone gets like really into talking about their scores, their splits, that means they're not that good, because they haven't gotten to the level where you realize it doesn't matter. So I guess 10.
Well, I mean, I was reading about how you competed in this indoor rowing championship, Crash B.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is such an impressive time that you had to a non-rower. I don't know about the time. So, I mean, I think this is more for rowers, just to psych out other rowers,
I guess. But let's talk about what Crash B is. Okay, Crash B is a it became the World Indoor Rowing Championships. Well, and then that also went its separate way. But Crash B stands for Charles River All-Star Has-Beens.
Oh, wait. Actually, I think I wrote this down. Wait, this is Charles River Association of Sculling Has-Beens.
Oh, wow. I thought it was All-Star. Well, anyway, whatever. It's a bunch of has-beens, right? It's a bunch of guys in the 70s who decided to create an indoor rowing competition because they were bored in the winter, but they did not take themselves too seriously, as evidenced by the fact that they called themselves has-beens. So the whole point of this indoor rowing thing is you're not supposed to take yourself too seriously. And so whenever someone starts taking themselves too seriously, that's when I know that they're not really a rower.
But you got to compete. Is it like a fun atmosphere? What was the competition like?
Oh no, it's terrifying. I want to throw up just walking in the door. You don't actually do it because it's type 2 fun. Have you heard of type 1 and type 2 fun?
No.
Okay, type 1 fun is fun while it's happening. Type 2 fun is fun when it's over. Like, most of rowing is type 2 fun. So you do it because it's just painful and not fun at all, but then you can say you've done it.
Okay. Do you think in your life that you get more enjoyment out of type 2 fun? I feel like law is probably a lot of type 2 fun. Well, for me, it was a lot of type 2 fun, because trying to figure something out can be extremely frustrating. Yeah. And then when you figure it out, you're like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
A small amount of euphoria.
Yeah, type 2 fun builds character, and it makes you feel good about yourself in the long run. Yeah.
Okay, so forget about the first one. The Peloton rowing machine, torture tin.
Oh, okay, so there's several different versions. I think it's Torch. I think anything that brings rowing to a wider audience in whatever form is great. I prefer the less expensive versions. I mean, you could go on YouTube and like there are loads of athletes, myself included, who have posted videos of like, here's a rowing session and follow along with me. So yeah, I prefer the DIY version, or at least the less expensive version.
Do you
Peloton is
think
way
you
too
could ever
expensive.
coach rowing?
I thought about it. I actually applied to a coaching job a couple years ago. It's hard. It's a hard life. Coaches are so important. So you can really affect. I say affect that. You can make young people's lives better, and that's important. And it's hard. So I don't know if I'm up to it.
Prioritizing education alongside Olympic prep. Torch or tin?
Oh, torch, absolutely. I gotta walk my talk and talk my walk. Yeah, no, I mean you can't. We just talked about how you can't be a professional rower, so like you got to figure something else out for the rest of your life.
The properness of UK rowing regattas. It was a big deal when they allowed pros to row in the Henley.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there's you can interpret proper a lot of ways, and I'm going to interpret a very specific way. I would say torch, because to me, one of the best things about rowing is its traditions, and some of them deserve to be tinned, but overall, I think the maintenance of tradition is a torch. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I love. I mean, rowing at Oxford, so much tradition. Loved that. Love going to Henley, dressing up. You just feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Understood. Okay, weight categories for rowing.
Oh, this one, oh my God, I'm going to get crucified.
Well, the Olympics no longer has weight categories.
No, I agree with the decision that the IOC made. The top lightweights are competitive with heavyweights, and I've seen a lot of very unhealthy behavior of athletes trying to make weight. And I think everyone should be welcomed as an oarsman or woman, as an athlete, regardless of your size. And yes, it's true, some people won't be able to make it to the top level without lightweight rowing, but nobody has a right to row at the Olympic Games.
So,
tin.
Canoe slalom.
Oh, that's a cool sport. Torch. Yeah. Oh, I love watching that.
Lawyer jokes.
Well, it depends if you're a lawyer or not. If you're telling them to non-lawyers, then definitely tin.
You know what? I'm on the same page as you, because the non-lawyers who tell them to me, I don't find it funny.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? You don't know what it's been like. Working in Big Law as a first-year associate.
Oh, awful. Tin. Why would you put yourself through that? Why did I put myself through that?
But you don't really know when you first get there what it should be like. So your expectations are being set kind of as you're in the group, like as you spend your time there. Did you always know that you wanted to go work in Big Law? Or were you thinking like, you'd work for the government or you'd clerk?
No, I always knew that I didn't want to work in Big Law, but I did it anyway. No, I knew it was miserable. Okay. You learn a lot of really important things. I've worked with lawyers who did not start out in Big Law, and there's a very noticeable style difference. And it's something that I guess, I'm sure there's a more humane way to teach that level of like customer service and I don't know, just like detail. there's got to be a better way to do it, but I learned a lot, so I don't regret the time I spent in big law, but I never intended to stay. Life is too short for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's you sign up for a specific experience. Although maybe
Yes.
now it might be changing a little bit. I don't
Do you
think
think?
so. No.
I haven't seen it.
But as I remember, AI, like the few AI programs had come out when I was in big law. And so I was in the corporate department. So I would get excited because one of the programs, like if you're just looking at certain provisions, like a termination provision or indemnity provision throughout like 50 contracts, and you're just making a sheet on how to, if all of these provisions are exactly the same. So it saves a lot of time. But the problem with this AI machine was that you had to get approval to use it because they were charging like per document that you fed it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but maybe, the business agreements that the firms are making with software companies are improving because things like that are just like tedious and time consuming when you already have a lot of other things on your plate at the office.
But remember, the time that you spend is revenue for the firm.
I mean, the billing hours are probably the most inhumane thing about big law.
Yeah,
There's
I
a lot
once
of
asked
pressure. Yeah.
I once asked a partner, how do you do it? How do you survive here? And he said, all right, here's what it is. You have to be billing like basically every second of the day. If you are standing in the shower thinking about a client's issue, you bill for that time. And I was like, because I had been, basically like I was too honest. Like I was stopping my clock when I went to the bathroom. And he was like, you can't do that. You'll never survive. So I just got a lot more efficient.
The numbers are so important, like the amount of hours that you've billed.
That's really all that they care about, which is
enough
dumb.
law stuff.
Yeah.
Dancing is cross training. Torture Tin.
Oh, ballroom dancing?
Ballroom dancing. Sorry.
Oh, well, it worked for me.
Okay, how did you get into ballroom dancing?
I just always loved dancing and movement since I was a kid. Like, it just makes me feel good. So when I, I'd taken dance classes here or there, but when I went back to Harvard after Athens, I took like the fall off of rowing and I joined the ballroom dance team and actually went to a couple competitions. I was terrible, but whatever. I had a great time. And I do think it helps. Like one of the things that coaches always said about me was like I had a really good, what do you call it? Just sense of where my body was in space, proprioception. Like I could make changes because I understood how what my technique was doing. And who knows? Maybe I liked dancing because I could already do it, but maybe I got better at it because I did dancing.
Like the rhythm that you're setting in the stroke seat translate to ballroom dancing? Of like the count of 8? Are you doing count of 8 in ballroom dancing? Well,
I was not a good leader. So the whole like following the music thing and like counting, not my strength. My strength was feeling what the leader wanted me to do and doing it. So I guess, but that did make me a good stroke because I was just talking about how your job in the stroke seat is to like feel what people behind you are doing and like give them what they need, right? I most of my time while I was in the stroke seat, my attention was on what was going on behind me and like the feedback I was getting between what I did and what they did. So I guess that's like a dancing thing, right? It's a dance between two people. It's a give and take.
Those are my torture tin questions. So I'll take it that do not really view it as cross training, more like as a pastime. What do you do for fun? Or is most of your fun considered like type 2 fun?
I think most of it is type 2 fun. Like my husband and I, when we first met, we would go on these like crazy kind of adventure things. As an example, we signed up to do race in kayaks that was 30 miles long. And I had done a decent amount of kayaking, but he had done like none ever before in his life. Like maybe been in a kayak a couple times. But his attitude is like, sure, like, I don't care about making a fool of myself. I don't care about like suffering. Like, let's do it. So those are the types of things that we like to do for fun.
Okay, a little bit of different subject. So you were president of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympics Association. What were you most proud of accomplishing during your term?
Ooh.
What made you want to take the position?
So it's the Alumni group, and I heard from so many athletes that they felt discarded after they retired, and I think that's wrong. Like we have done something valuable, and I don't think you deserve to be, lauded for the rest of your life, right? But I felt like the most important thing to help athletes not feel adrift was to create a community. And so, I'm not sure that I accomplished that. I think it's very much still work in progress. But what I did accomplish is just raising awareness within the organization, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, of the need to bring retired athletes back into the fold and make them feel valued. And hopefully we'll start to see some changes.
How do you think that happens, though?
Oh, like how did I do that?
Yeah, like how would I mean, a lot of athletes then do like want to go back to the games, and then like, only so many tickets that you can get for certain events, or, when you go as a spectator, just purely as a spectator, or bring your family, it's not necessarily that you're always feeling like you're welcome.
Yeah, I think the issue of like games tickets, that's tough, right? Because that's a local organizing committee thing. I don't think we're going to be given alumni free tickets anytime soon. But like as an example, the USOPC will hold a sponsor event in Boston, and they'll like fly in a few famous athletes, and they I might not even know that it's going on, this event. When what they could do is invite all the local Boston area Olympians and Paralympians to show up at the event. And it bugs me how much the USOPC relies on their stars, because I think there's a lot of real value in the experiences of the athletes who are not famous, to connect on a personal level with, we're talking about sponsor events, but even more so with just the American people who support us. There are only so many famous athletes, and there are, 300 million Americans. We could do a much better job of reaching out to our communities, inspiring young athletes. And as a alum, I think that really makes you feel valued, and it doesn't take that much time, and it doesn't take a lot of money to just like get some people together and showcase local alums in your area. But someone needs to organize that, and it's generally like I'm too busy for that these days, so I need someone else to do that, and I think the USOPC is best positioned.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about the community and rowing, or that you felt like you had this community. Do you feel that? Like I certainly feel it when I meet other Olympians, that we have some type of common understanding of this big part of our lives, and big part of our identity is of what we've went through to try to achieve, this commitment to one thing, to try to achieve excellence.
Yeah, I definitely have a big community of certainly high-level athletes here in Boston, but most of them are rowers. And so I think a lot of retired athletes, they find that community within their sport, but then we're missing out on meeting people from other sports who have a slightly different perspective and might be actually really interesting to talk to. So I think that's the kind of thing that we need help with.
So I guess we'll end on this note. I didn't know about your training stories, and those were. I wasn't sure. Like when I was like reading your bio, I was just like, "You're so inspirational, but is it relatable?" Because most people don't have so many high level accomplishments, and so to hear you talk about it and to talk about the human side of going through that and the journey. And it's like, yeah, like what you said, when you're training and it's hard, or I mean, when you're going through school and it's hard, you're just thinking about the end. Like if, I make the podium, or if I win, or if I, pass the bar, or once I, finish this case. And then you realize, like, wait, that's it?
Yeah. Yeah. And
some people like never realize that what they, were looking for was a community.
Yeah. Sometimes that's because they don't accomplish their goal and they figure the reason they're not happy is because they didn't accomplish it, or you just kind of, you do, and then you're like, I lost my train of thought. Oh, well.
To be continued. Hopefully, a lot of people will listen.
Oh, I was thinking, we were talking about relatable. Like, people can't relate to winning a gold medal, right? And, well, you can, right? But, like, most of your listeners can't. So I guess that's another reason why maybe.
But for a lot of people, that's like the main thing. But for you, it was just like so many things. It was Ivy League undergrad, Oxford, Columbia Law, working at, what I mean? Like, even though we were saying how it might not be the greatest to work in big law, but that's a goal for a lot of people, at least for a few years, to pay off student loans or to get the experience so they can go work at the legal job that they want. And so it wasn't just, all the success of being the most decorated rower in history.
There's misinformation out there, and I actually believed it at one point myself. No, there's American. No, not even. Well, it depends how you define it. Like, are you talking about golds? There's another American woman who has more Olympic
decorated.
Golds. Oh, overall medals.
Yeah.
I swear, I think there's a Romanian woman who has more. But again, it depends how you measure it. Like, are we including like World Cup medals? But maybe it's because they're including the Thomas Keller medal. But that's not
very
IOC.
Impressive.
That's probably the one I'm most proud of. But because it's like, not only did you win, but the people you beat still like you.
I mean, people said such nice things about you too, or people in the rowing community. So, I mean, that had to feel good. And it was recent. Did you go somewhere to get the award?
Yeah. It was awarded in Lucerne. So the like final World Cup of the season is always in Lucerne in Switzerland. So they had a little ceremony there last year. It was really nice.
Did you bring your family?
I did. And Davis, my son, was the star of the show. He was 9 months old at the time, and I bought him this like rowing blazer and a boater hat. But he, as a kid, right, he like always wanted to take off his hat. So I told my husband, I was like, right before they introduced Davis, you need to put on his hat. So my husband put on his hat and held him up, and he took off his hat, and like it looked like he was acknowledging the crowd when he took off his hat. And everyone went wild. It was the best part of the ceremony.
See, he already has the showmanship.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Good to see you, Sarah.
Bye.